Welcome to biochemistry lecture. Today we are going to see the other frequently asked important questions in the carbohydrate unit. So we have more than 10 questions to discuss in today's video. Let's see one by one. The first question, write the difference between starch and glycogen. So if this question comes, the answer is in front of your screen. The starch is a carbohydrate in plants, whereas glycogen is the animal carbohydrate, and both of them, starch and glycogen, are the alpha D glucose. It is a polymer of alpha D glucose. And third difference, starch occurs in grains, whereas the glycogen occurs in the small granules. The fourth one is the molar mass of starch is variable, whereas the molar mass of glycogen is around 666.577 gram per mole. The fifth difference is 1,4 glycosidic bonds in amylose and 1,4 and 1,6 glycosidic bonds in amylopectin occurs between monomers, whereas in glycogen the 1,4 glycosidic bonds occurs between monomer. There is no involvement of 1,6 glycosidic bonds. So this is the answer for starch and glycogen. The next question, write short notes on cellulose. So cellulose is a substance which makes up most of the plant cell wall. So the plant cell wall, the majority of the substance present is cellulose. It is made by all plants. So in the earth, abundant organic material is found. So in the earth we have lot of plants. So every plant cell wall have cellulose. So in the earth, abundant amount of cellulose is present. Cellulose is a complex carbohydrate or it is a polysaccharide which consists of 3000 or more glucose units. Cellulose is very important polysaccharide because it is most abundant organic compound of earth. Cellulose is a major compound of tough cell walls that surround plant cells. So it is acting like a fortress wall. And what makes plant stems, leaves, and branches so strong? How in human beings we have the bones which makes our human body very strong. Similarly, the cellulose in plant stem, leaves, branches makes this strong. Cellulose serves many functions including connecting cells in form of tissues. So like our blood, so in the plant cellulose acting as a connective tissues. So this is about cellulose. The next question is write short notes on anomers. Anomers are special cases like monomers. We have anomers, isomers also there. Anomers are special cases. They are epimers that differ in configuration only at the anomeric carbon. For example, the best example for anomer is alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. So both are similar in structure, but you can see that in the first carbon atom, in the alpha D glucose we have OH. So we have this structure. So but when it comes to the beta D glucose, there is the substance position is different. So this is the main difference. So there is difference in the substance which is attached to the first carbon atom. So that is the anomer. So anomer comes in the exam, draw the structure of alpha D glucose and beta D glucose and explain where where in the ring the first carbon atom and the fifth carbon atom you can see that there is change in the substance. So next we want to see the next thing. The next question is inulin. Inulin is a type of prebiotic. It is a substance that is used by the microorganisms in your digestive tract and positively it influences the health. So inulin is good for our health. It is a prebiotic. So it is found in the digestive tract. The microorganism which is present in the digestive system use it for the health purpose. So there is evidence that there are three prebiotics provides health benefits. There are three types of inulin which provides various health benefits, or we can say there are three types of prebiotics. First one is the inulin, also referred to as long chain inulin. The second one is the short chain inulin is called fructooligosaccharides. Fructooligosaccharides. The third one is the galacto-oligosaccharides. The third one is galacto-oligosaccharides. So these are the three types of inulin. Now let's see the benefits of inulin. So inulin have multiple benefits. First one is it improves our digestive health. It relieves constipation. It promotes weight loss. It helps to control diabetes. It improves the health of heart. It improves mineral absorption and helps to maintain bone health. It prevents the colon cancer and it prevents inflammatory bowel disease. So these are the benefits of inulin, and inulin three types. Fructo-oligo. So what are the three types of inulin? One is inulin, it's a long chain in inulin. The short chain is fructo-oligosaccharide, and another one is galacto-oligosaccharide. So inulin comes in the exam. Hope you could write the answers exactly. The next question is difference between homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. Homopolysaccharides are chemical compounds that are composed of a single type of monomer, whereas heteropolysaccharides made up of two or more different monosaccharides. Homopolysaccharide, homo, similar, is made up of single type of monomer. Hetero, different, is made up of two or more different monosaccharides. So homopolysaccharide is composed of same repeating units. So here the different repeating units are present in the structure. The third difference is single type of monosaccharide is involved in the function, whereas in heteropolysaccharide different types of monosaccharides are involved in the function. It have the homopolysaccharides have simple structure when compared with heteropolysaccharides. So heteropolysaccharides have a complex structure. So this is another short answer, difference between homopolysaccharide and heteropolysaccharide. The next question is, why aerobic glycolysis relieves more energy than anaerobic glycolysis? So in the glycolytic process, two types, aerobic and anaerobic. The amount of ATP produced in the aerobic glycolysis is more than anaerobic glycolysis, because aerobic respiration produces more energy than anaerobic respiration, because in aerobic respiration there is complete breakdown of glucose molecule into carbon dioxide and water along with 38 ATP molecules produced, whereas in anaerobic respiration the glucose only undergoes glycolysis and then either ethanol is formed or lactic acid is formed along with only two ATP molecules. So this is the answer for why aerobic glycolysis produces more ATP molecule than anaerobic glycolysis. So the next question is metabolism of fructose. So we have seen the metabolism of glucose. The metabolism of fructose is another carbohydrate. So basically the fructose metabolizes and it gives glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate as the end product. So first step, the fructose is converted into fructose 1 phosphate with the help of the enzyme fructose kinase. For this, it undergoes phosphorylation, that is the ATP molecule lose 1 phosphate molecule and it becomes adenosine diphosphate. Followed by that, the fructose 1 phosphate gives two types of product. One is glyceraldehyde and another one is dihydroxyacetone phosphate. So with the help of the enzyme fructose 1-phosphoaldolase. Fructose 1-phosphoaldolase converts the fructose into two substances, one is glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. This glyceraldehyde, with the help of the enzyme triose kinase, it is converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Here again, one phosphate molecule is detached from ATP molecule and ATP is converted into ADP molecule. This dihydroxyacetone phosphate is again converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So this we have seen in the glycolysis reaction. In the fifth step, the dihydroxyacetone phosphate will be converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So same step here. So this is the metabolism of fructose. Fructose molecule will give the end product as glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. The next question, what is the metabolism of galactose? So this is the answer for that. Galactose will be converted into glucose 6-phosphate. So it is taking place in various steps. In the first step, galactose will be converted into galactose 1-phosphate with the help of the enzyme galactokinase. In the second step, the galactose 1-phosphate occurs uridyl group from uridine diphosphate. The galactose 1-phosphate occurs uridyl group from uridine diphosphate it occurs the uridyl group and intermediate in the synthesis of glycosidic linkage in glycogenesis. So this reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase. Galactyl 1-phosphate uridyl transferase. Now what will happen? And also it produce one UDP galactose and glucose 1-phosphate. So here what is, because of this conversion with the help of galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase, we are getting two substances. One is uridyl diphosphate galactose, UDP galactose, uridyl diphosphate galactose. So when this reaction occurs with the help of by occurring a substance called uridyl, so uridyl diphosphate glucose, galactose 1-phosphate acquire a substance uridyl diphosphate glucose, and this conversion enzyme takes place with the help of galactose 1-phosphate. As a result, we get two products. One is glucose 1-phosphate and another product is uridyl diphosphate galactose. So this galactose 1-phosphate which we obtained here joins with this one uridyl diphosphate. So what will happen? And glucose. So here it is joining and it undergoes conversion to galactose 1-phosphate. So this is the reaction again and again it's continuing. So here what is happening? This uridyl diphosphate with galactose joins with uridine diphosphate glucose, and as a result we are getting a substance galactose 1-phosphate again. So again we are getting galactose 1-phosphate. Now the next step, the galactose moiety of uridine diphosphate galactose is then epimerized to uridine diphosphate glucose to uridine diphosphate galactose for epimerase. So simple. So this substance glucose 1-phosphate which is produced from galactose 1-phosphate will undergo reaction with the help of the enzyme phosphoglucomutase, and it gives a final substance glucose 6-phosphate. So this might be a complicated, but keep this the vertical pathway in your mind and you write galactose 1-phosphate, glucose 1-phosphate and glucose 6-phosphate. So this is about metabolism of galactose. The next one is, what is glycogen storage disease? It is one of the inherited disorder. So when glycogen storage, when there is a problem, this disease occurs. There are six types of disease. So glycogen storage disease comes in the exam. You draw this table and you can write. There are six types of disease. First one is von Gerk, second one is Pompe, third one is Cori, fourth one is Anderson disease, fifth one is McArdle disease, and sixth one is Hirsch disease. So to keep this disease in your mind, so this is the mnemonic. Villainous president called and molested her. So this is the mnemonic we found. The first letters represents the glycogen storage diseases. With this mnemonic, select all the first letter and you can write the disease name in the order correctly. Van Gogh disease because of the deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate. Pompe disease because of the deficiency of lysosomal alpha 1,4 glycoxidase. Cori disease because of deficiency of debranching enzyme. Anderson disease because of branching enzyme deficiency. McArdle disease, deficiency of muscle glycogen phosphorylase. Hirsch disease because of hepatic glycogen phosphorylase. So this is about glycogen storage disease. The next question is von Gert's disease. So glycogen storage disease here. This condition is common when the glycogen could not be metabolized. So here the body cannot break down the glycogen. So glycolysis does not occur in our body. Van der disease happens. So this is type 1 glycogen storage disease, and Van der disease occurs when the body lacks the protein enzyme that releases glucose from glycogen. And this is an inherited disorder. So it is a hereditary disease. When glycogen is not broken down properly, it leads to low blood sugar. So this is about Van Gogh disease. So it is also called type 1 glycogen storage disease. The next question we are going to see is the same question. What are the symptoms of Van Gogh disease? Van Gogh disease, the symptoms first constant hunger because of low blood sugar level. So the client needs to eat often to increase the sugar level, and easily bruising and nosebleeds epistaxis occurs. Fatigue is common, tiredness, irritability because of low sugar level, puffy cheeks, thin chest and limbs, and swollen belly are the other common signs and symptoms of Van Gogh's disease. The next question is diabetic ketoacidosis, short form DKA. It is a serious complication of type 1 diabetes and less commonly seen in type 2 diabetes. DKA happens when your blood sugar is very high and acidic substances called ketones build up to the dangerous level in your body. So when we have excessive amount of glucose, the sugar in our body, that metabolism convert that carbohydrate into ketone. The ketone level will be excess in our blood. That condition is called as diabetic ketoacidosis. Signs and symptoms are excessive thirst, frequent urination, nausea and vomiting, abdominal pain, weakness, fatigue, shortness of breath, fruity scented breath and confusion. Fruity odor from the breath is a classical sign and symptom of diabetic ketoacidosis. Now the management, three types of management. First one is fluid replacement. Client will receive IV fluids, also oral fluids that helps the client to be rehydrated. Electrolyte replacement therapy is given. So mainly it is given sodium, potassium and chloride, and insulin therapy is commonly given. Continuous dose of insulin is given with the insulin pump. So this is about diabetic ketoacidosis. The next question is galactosemia, in the blood, the galactose level high. So galactosemia is a condition in which body is unable to use the simple sugar galactose. As a result of that, the galactose metabolism does not occur. That leads to excess amount of galactose in the blood. There are three types of galactosemia. First one is galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase, that is called GALT, G-A-L-T, GALT. So galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase deficiency. It is a classic galactosemia. It is most commonly seen and it is very severe form. The next one is deficiency of galactose kinase, GALK. Deficiency of galactose kinase, less common, and very less common deficiency of galactose 6-phosphate epimerase, GALE. So GALT, GALK, and GALI. So these are the three types of galactosemia. So how we treat and what are the symptoms? People with galactosemia usually unable to break down the simple sugar galactose. As a result of that, galactose makes up one half of lactose, the sugar found in the milk. So if an infant with galactosemia is given milk, substances made from galactose, um, it will build up in the infant system. The galactose amount will be filled up. This substance damages the liver, brain, kidney, and eyes. People with galactosemia cannot tolerate any form of milk, either human milk or animal milk. They must be careful about eating other foods containing galactose. So that is the only treatment. They cannot eat the foods where galactose is present. The next question is lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance is a digestive disorder caused by inability to digest lactose. So it is a disorder in which the body does not digest the lactose. So it can cause various symptoms including bloating in the abdomen, diarrhea, abdominal cramps. People with lactose intolerance don't make enough of the enzyme lactase, which is needed to digest the lactose. So here the lactase enzyme deficiency is present. As a result of that, lactose could not metabolize. Signs and symptoms: flatulence, bloating of the abdomen, and we have abdominal pains, nausea, and diarrhea. So another question is heredity fructose intolerance. So lactose intolerance, galactose intolerance, now fructose intolerance. So it is result from the defect of the enzyme fructose 1 bisphosphate aldolase. So fructose intolerance is because of the deficiency of the enzyme fructose 1,6 bisphosphate aldolase. So when patients are exposed to fructose, they can have gastrointestinal symptoms with nausea and vomiting, seizures and coma. So these are the signs and symptoms. Very life-threatening condition. Seizure fits will occur. Complications like liver failure and proximal renal tubule defects can be seen. And when this condition exacerbate, that leads to fructose. Like this condition is getting worse when we give medicine which contains fructose substances. So it is a chronic form can develop leading to growth failure, chronic renal and liver damage. So this condition is present in the body for long period. So chronic renal and liver damage can occur. The treatment is avoidance of substances in which fructose is in higher amount. They cannot take any substance with fructose. The last question in this carbohydrate chapter. With this, the carbohydrate chapter is completed. So, what is the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes? So, type 1 diabetes is called insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Type 2 is non insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Type 1 diabetes is also known as juvenile onset diabetes mellitus. Type 2 is adult onset or maturity onset diabetes mellitus. The age it occurs in the children or adolescents. That's why it is called juvenile onset diabetes. So mostly above 35 to 40 years, type 2 diabetes occurs, non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Prevalence. So it is common in 10 percentage of the, so among all the diabetes cases, around 10 percentage of the cases suffering from type 1 diabetes mellitus. They need insulin constantly. So here it is present more than 80 percentage of the diabetes mellitus patients are non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. The causes of diabetes mellitus exactly the deficiency of insulin because of the autoimmune destruction of beta cells. The causes of type 2 diabetes mellitus because of insulin deficiency caused by dysfunction of beta cells or due to insulin resistance. So this is the difference between type 1 diabetes mellitus and type 2 diabetes mellitus. With this, I am signing up with the carbohydrate unit. From Monday, we will see the lipid unit. So study well, give importance to carbohydrate unit. Meet you again. Thank you. Bye bye.